Hello, and welcome to this episode of A Facilitator's Journey. Today, I am joined on the pink seat by Stroud. She is a clown, a comic coach, a business owner, a facilitator, an all-round amazing person. She does stand-up comedy tours. I mean, I've never had a comedian on my show before. So I'd love to invite you right now. Go get that cup of tea, pull up a chair, or come and join me on the pink seat and tune your ears in for what is a fantastic conversation with Em. Hey Em, welcome to A Facilitator's Journey. Thank you for being here today. Question I ask everybody is, please introduce yourself, and then how do we know each other?
Okay. Hello. It's nice to be here. Thanks for having me, Kirsty. So I'm Em Stroud, and I'm the comic coach, and I am also a professional clown, and I'm the founder of the Leadership Impact School. Podcaster, author, mother.
Stand-up
Small
comedian.
person. Stand-up small person. You can't tell, because it's the thing, you never know how tall somebody is.
That's
when
true.
you're doing this podcast, right? And we met at the top of a cinema, and you were sitting away from the crowd, and you were on your phone, and your feet were up on the table, and I just got there. Yeah, it wasn't posh, kids, so don't worry, Kirsty wasn't breaking any rules, wasn't posh. And I got there, and I saw this mass group of people, and then I saw you, and I was like, you look quite interesting. And you had consciously put yourself out away from all of these people going, hi, let's meet. And it was a Dan Priestley event, and I'm a big fan of Dan Priestley. He's really good, does some really awesome stuff, really like him. And I came over and just started chatting to you. And we then went and watched the film that was all about the phones that you've reminded me about. Blackberry.
Yeah. And just talking to Emma about this as we started, I was like, I really like what Dan does. And I will talk about KPI, key person of influence, till the cows come home. And I learnt a lot. It's just some of the people around him I just find a bit odd. And I just couldn't. There were just people I just think I just can't engage with you. So Emma literally comes on over, and I was a bit like, oh no, here we go. And I was like, oh no, she's quite cool. Back to the height thing though. So yeah. Emma, how tall are you?
I'm 5'2.5".
And I'm just under 6 foot. So when we did stand up and say hi, we did notice.
Yeah, we did. There was a definite, okay, we've got this height thing going on. Fortunately,
so we sat back down again.
Yeah, we sat back down again, but we're both comfortable in our own shoes, because I've got really good mates who are women who are 6 foot plus, and then I've got friends who are my height. Yeah. We can just touch the floor faster than you. That's it, right?
You can actually. That's a truth, and
truth.
Yeah, a truth of the matter. Also, the other thing about height is you live in your body, and you've been there all the time. So it doesn't even occur to me that I am tall or that somebody else is short to me. I'm just like, this is just how I am.
It's only when my son sort of now, and he's 12, sort of has to go down to my level, and he's like, wow, you really are short. And I'm like, thanks for that. Thanks for that. Love you too. I know. And then, because when he was 11, he was my height, and he was quite proud. And I was like, don't be that proud. I'm 5'2.5". And then he's like, Mum, when are you going to let go of the half? And I was like, never.
No, the half's important.
The half is important.
Because actually, I'm 5'11 and a half. And that half always felt very important when I was growing up. And guys used to say to me, I don't know why, I'd always go, how tall are you? And they'd go, oh, I'm 6 foot. And I'd be looking in their eyes. And I'd be like, no, you're not. Because I'm 5'11 and a half.
Yeah.
And I can see over your head. And anyway,
what was a man exaggerating? What is this? What is this world?
Kelsey,
what? About size? What is this world? Anyway, we digress.
This might be the episode, team, who are regular listeners, where there's a lot of giggles because, as Emma said, she is a comic coach and clown. What does that mean?
What does it mean? I ask myself that on a regular basis. So I make shows. So I sort of have two identities, So on this side, and for those of you that are watching, on my right hand side, I have my creative self. So I'm a trained actor, trained performer, improviser, and clown. And when I say clown, quite a lot of people are scared of clowns. That's because of the 1970s onwards. When I talk about clowns, what we are is we're the observers of life. We're the truth tellers. So think more Shakespearean fool and court jester, and you get the idea. And I make one-person shows. I'm about to take my current show on tour around the UK from September. It's going to end up in Australia at the Melbourne Comedy Festival. So that would be my third person show. So I really do practice my craft. You know, I went to drama school for 3 years. I studied theatre at university, and creativity is my way of being. It is what I do. It is my craft. It's what I have knowledge and expertise in. So I have that side of me, which is the comic side. And then the other side of me is that I have run various businesses for the last 20 odd years. And, you know, sort of been an entrepreneur, had teams of people, not had teams of people. But fundamentally, the heart of my work is all about how people can connect, engage, tell better stories, have more joy in their life, have more laughter in their life, and more play in their life.
Love it.
And I work with lots of different people. So those are the two sides of me.
Oh my God, my brain's gone all over the place. I think something you just said there about I practice my craft. And we are going to talk about running a business, but that just really resonates for me as a facilitator and a trainer and I train other people how to facilitate and train. I just think if we're going to do something like that next meta level, we have to be practicing it ourselves to be able to help others understand it.
It has to be a craft, and there's not many things really kind of get under my skin, but one thing that gets under my skin is when people are talking about creativity in business, and then you scratch the surface and you're like, but where's your practice of your own creativity?
Interesting.
Tell me, what are you doing? Are you writing? Are you producing art? Are you a musician? Are you a theatre maker? Talk to me about a creative practice that you have gone and learnt how to do it that is actually then impacting the way you're talking about creativity in business. And when I see that people aren't, it's a bugbear of mine, because it's a craft. Just like facilitation is a craft. You have to keep working at it. It's not just by autopilot. Okay, I'm off my soapbox now.
No, but I can be on that soapbox because I think I get frustrated when I hear people, trainers more, that might go, oh, I can train on any topic. I'm like, no, you can't. Like, you can do legal work, you can do finance, but you were in marketing. And then you hear people going, oh, no, but it's all it's fine. I'll have the information. I can read the notes. I'm like, credibility factor out the window. Anyway, we're here today to talk about running a business. You said,
yes, we are.
You said you've run multiple businesses. How many businesses have you run, Emma? By the way, we had this. She told me tonight. I've done the wrong name.
It's all right. Only people that don't really like me or my mother call me Emma. So it's like, if you want this to be a good chat, kids, definitely keep me as the M. How many businesses have I run? I think it's probably 6 now.
Oh wow,
something like that. And
can you describe them to us? Like, take us through.
Yeah, of course. So my first ever business, and I think, I think it's important to say that my dad was an entrepreneur.
Right.
So I had sort of been demonstrated that you could run a business. Okay. So he didn't have a job per se. So I think my younger self always knew, I don't have to have a job. So I think that started my process. Hence, I've had quite a few, because that sort of started in my early 20s. My first proper business was a theatre company. And we
as you do, straight in there, I'll have a theatre company.
Of course, because, I was pretty lucky. I came out of drama school and I was pretty successful, AKA as an actor. I worked for like 80% of the year, which means that I was in the top 20% of actors. But there's still that thing as an actor that you're always walking into a room, and sometimes you would walk in and they'd go, nope, purely because I'm 5'2.5", as we've already discovered, and they might have just cast somebody your height, and we would look ridiculous on stage together.
Do you mean to say that you don't have the Tom Cruise thing where you can stand on a box with your...
Not yet. Not yet. Note the word yet. And so I really wanted to make sure that I could also be in charge of my own world and not always be waiting for other people to give me that opportunity. So I met some awesome people. We set up a theatre company. We were actors, mixture of different people. And we were pretty successful. We ran, we produced shows up at Edinburgh. We had a residency in London. And theatre companies and theatre industry is tough. It's tough to make money. It's tough to even break even. And myself and my then business partner at the time, I'd also played in the world of sales and had done since I was sort of 15. Like, selling is listening to me. And so I kind of had that, let's build really good relationships. I'd already had that. And that's what theatre is as well. And he came from an HR coaching perspective. And honestly, our sort of first sort of bit of work was, as a theatre company, we went into an engineering company all male board because we treated our actors really well. She was the receptionist, and she went up while slightly drunk, her name was Karen, to the managing partner and went, "Your presentations are really boring, and I think I know someone that could help." And Andrew took a punt on me and my old business partner. And he was like, "I've been looking for somebody that can run a presentation skills course for us at the board for about 5 years. And everybody has offered us an off-the-shelf thing. I want it for us." And so he went, "How much will you charge?" And I kid you not, I literally went, £2,000?
Bless you.
Just go back, like, £2,000? And he went, "Okay." And he went, "Right, what I'll do is I'll pay you half up front, and then you'll do the day. And if your day is good, then I'll pay you the rest of it. If it's rubbish, I won't pay it, and you'll never work with us again." Fast forward, we ended up working with them for about 7 years. We ended up training the whole of their partners,
Love it.
helped them win the Olympics bid. So that was the first business. Really was all about presentations because acting made sense.
Yeah.
I then trained as a coach. Fast forward. And then as a theatre company, we were getting busier and busier with a sort of having a L&D side. So we split the company.
Makes sense.
And so we had the theatre company and L&D business. And the L&D business started off doing really well. And, we were getting some really quite big contracts. We've got a team and everything else like this. And suddenly it was like, we're scaling a business. We're doing the entrepreneurial journey. We've got a big office. We've got flash people. Woo, woo, woo. Signed this really big contract, we're talking over £1 million. All signed, all dusted. We're like, yeah, smashing it. Doing great. And then the contract got pulled. And the contract got pulled purely because the CEO changed his mind.
Shit.
And that was my first business that failed.
Oh, Emma.
Because
what happened? Like, what? I can't even imagine that.
Yeah. We'd got the team. We had some other work, but not enough to feed as many mouths as we needed to deliver £1 million contract. It was a whole cultural change. It was massive, right? And I remember sitting with my old business partner, and we went and met with our lawyer. And he was like, "You honestly have a 90 to 95% chance of winning this because your contract is pretty watertight. However, do you, as two entrepreneurial small business owners, want to spend the next 5 years of your life in high court?"
Oh my gosh.
Because that's what they'll do. The corporates will just they'll send their lawyers, then they'll send another team of lawyers, then they'll send another team of lawyers. And I will always be eternally grateful for that man because it was the right call. But my goodness, walking into that office where we'd been like, woohoo, woohoo, and suddenly going, "We don't have a business," was one of the hardest entrepreneurial lessons I've ever had. Because even with a signed, sealed contract, until that first invoice is paid, you just never know. With massive firms. And I think this is a rarity. And then from that, we then, we sort of dust ourselves down, cried a bit, drank quite a lot of wine, felt awful, debated the value of what it is that we offer, and I think on a personal note, it was, am I any good at this? Mm-hmm. Do I know what I'm doing? Or so should I go and work for other people? Yeah. I know that the work we deliver was great, but maybe I'm just not a business owner. And then we ended up then setting up another couple of businesses, me and my old business partner, a public speaking club, because again, that made sense. It was kind of coming back to what made sense to us. Club got slightly battered by the recession, as a lot of businesses did, going back to that. And then we sort of fell into a business that was really simple and a proper lifestyle business, where in essence, me and him would go off 4 times a year and run retreats for 8 very senior people in organisations. Brilliant lifestyle business. That was, and I stopped working with him. So I worked with my business partner for 15 years. And then because of life and changes, I then went, okay, time for me to go out by myself. So somehow I came up with the name M Stroud Limited. Don't know how I came up with that.
That's a challenge.
Genius. And that was, just pre-COVID. And in the last, few months, I've set up the Leadership Impact School. So there we go. That's my checkered history of businesses. Yeah.
I tell you what is striking me is just this, truth or not, it feels like a very innate knowing that this is the right kind of business to do. And there's also an inner confidence I'm hearing in your voice. Like, it seemed blindingly obvious that why would I not set up my own business? Whereas for a lot of people who come into this world, the concept of leaving the 9 to 5 corporate security, pay, yada, 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 and setting up on your own, it's like, whoa, that's scary. That can feel a stretch.
It is, and I definitely had it. So when I decided to go to drama school, I had this real head versus heart moment. So I'd been working as a sales director. I became regional sales director of Walkers. So I was selling crisps while running my first ever tiny theatre company that was just me, right? And I was really good at selling crisps. And they offered me this big job. And I suddenly was like the regional sales director, and I was 22 and I looked about 12, and I was like, I don't really know how I've got this job. And then I got headhunted to then become what is now the director of sales at Rightmove. And it wasn't called Rightmove at the time. We're going back to the 90s, right? End of 90s. And I had this moment where they were offering this 22-year-old a bucket load of money, a car, this, career path, head stuff, right? But I'd also just done my first professional acting gig and had lost my voice. So I'd gone, I need to know the craft. I need to go to drama school. And I'd got into all of the drama schools that I'd applied. And on the day that they offered me the job was the day that the letter landed that I'd got into the drama school that I really wanted to go to. And it was like head, heart, head, heart.
Wow, that's a real universe giving it to you on a plate, going, time to choose.
Which way? And I was like, I have to follow my heart. So I phoned them up, and I remember the conversation. And then they offered me a bit more. And I was like, ah. And I had that moment of like, oh, well, maybe I could go and do that job for 2 years, buy the house, do all of the good thing. And then maybe I could go and do that, etc. And then one of my really good mates went, you only get one life. Why would you, and you've got into the drama school you really want to go to. So that moment was a real pinnacle moment. And I know, having coached so many people, leaving that safety net, leaving that you're going to get paid, you've got benefits, it is a massive thing, and it's scary, and it's not for everybody.
Correct. And I think that's important. It's not for everybody, by the way.
But you don't know how you're going to respond to it until you try.
Yeah. I think you can do some prep in your head with a coach. I always say to people,
completely.
I'm thinking of leaving, setting up on my own. I've got like a mental checklist now that I say to them. It's like, are you going to be made redundant? Yes. Oh, great. So you've got some money. Great. Do you know how much? Put that aside. But you need to do some inner work to like sense check this.
Hugely. And what I always tell people when they're in that situation, I'm like, when you've got this chunk of money, make sure that each month you pay yourself a salary.
Oh, nice.
So that you don't view it that you're just having a little hobby and you're trying something out. Because when you're paying yourself, I know it seems mad because you're in essence moving money from your one account of yours to another. It makes a difference because you're like, oh, I've got a job here.
Balance
and I
see
exchange. So many people from corporates go, I'm going to keep on to my money. They don't put any money into their business. They're not paying themselves. So their sense of self goes down.
Absolutely. You talked about that moment where it was your head and your heart and you had to make a choice. I'd already resigned from Diageo, Guinness, if you don't know what I'm talking about. And my boss said to me, my grandfather role, who sat on the board, Ron wants to have a conversation with you to understand what you're doing next and why you're leaving. He's also going to offer you some jobs. And it was really interesting because when he said that to me, I can still see where I was sitting in an office with a girlfriend. And as he said that, every part of me just went, that's okay. He can offer me those roles, but I'm not interested, because I was really clear in my values and in my heart why I was choosing to leave. And it was my choice. And interestingly, when the conversation came round, he was like, so respect all that you said why you're leaving. He said, but if you want, I can get you a role in Dubai, or do you want to move out to Singapore? So all the things that actually I was really interested in, and also the money, but it wasn't enough. Like I realized that money and location weren't the overriding factors for me at that point. It was like, I want to be able to do more training and coaching because that actually makes me really happy. And it was like following that the heart path versus the logical head.
hugely.
I think it's really fascinating.
Hmm.
As a woman who has run multiple businesses then, what have you learned, especially from a facilitator trainer perspective? Like what are some of the foundations? What's important to you that you now think?
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, delegate everything you're not good at. I think so many, and I've met countless facilitators and coaches and trainers, and I think there is a sense when you're starting off where I think a lot of people be like, I've got to do it all because then that keeps my costs down, and then that keeps my cost, and it's like, and you can feel it's almost like I'm holding on, I'm really tight.
Yeah.
If
anyone's listening, M's hands are starting to contract. Like, oh.
Yeah, it's like I'll keep hold of it, and if I can do it, then I'll do it, right? And actually, I think for any of us that are brilliant at holding people in spaces and giving people that space to learn, to develop, to shift, to change, to grow, we are not going to be brilliant at everything else. And if I look through all of the businesses, and when I think about where I am right now, for sure, the biggest gift I give myself is that I have an amazing assistant. The amount of times that people spend wasting their life just sorting out diary stuff. And I'm like, that is not your superpower. Pay somebody else to do it, right? I have an amazing, sort of business mentor. I've got an accountant that deals with everything to do with that. I have a designer. If I find myself like you, I've got a podcast, right? And if I find myself starting to faff around with podcasting, I take a moment and go, and what are you doing? This is what Marie is for. Because I will, you can go down a rabbit hole of like, maybe I could produce it myself, or maybe I could do that. And it's like, no, you can't. I don't care how my podcast gets put up on Libsyn and finds itself on Spotify. Don't care. Don't want to know.
I never wish to know either.
Never need to know. Never wish to know. I'm like, I check it. I'm like, look at it. It's on Spotify. And I think in terms of all of that, you can find the right person, and if they are the right person, even if they're 20 quid, 40 quid, 400 quid, 4,000 quid an hour, you will find the right person. And because they're good, that will then free you up to doing what you're really good at.
So true. 100%.
And the times when things have been hard, the times when things have gone wrong has been when I've tried to do it all, and I tried to take back because I've thought and got in my own way, basically. Whereas now, no chance.
I from the off knew finance, legal, and technology have never and will never be my bag. So what that meant was when I first left corporate land, I found an accountant straight away. And we're always told to find the accountant, but find one that you could really work well with. And as you said, could do most things for you. My next hire was Victoria, who's my finance manager and still is. And she talks about leaving my London flat. And it was a good 15 years ago with a bag of receipts, because I got to the point where I just was like, I can't do this. And it brought me no joy. Who gets excited? I don't get excited writing invoices. I don't get excited getting us on vendor systems. Victoria, on the other hand, not that she gets excited, but she's so diligent, and she does the detail, and she's brilliant at that. And I think it's okay for us to go, this is my zone of awesomeness, and this is where I need help.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I become a weeping mess. I've never tried to build a website. That would just be a nightmare.
No.
Where do you find good people, though, to work with?
I don't know. It's an interesting piece. Again, a bit of instinct, a bit like when we first met. I kind of trust myself with that. I kind of have naturally good instinct. And I have been doing this for quite a long time. I'm in my 40s now, and so I've built a lot of relationships. I've worked with some people that are awful. I've worked with some people that are brilliant. And I think the simplest way is, who do you admire, like, respect, who are doing really well in whatever they're doing, and ask them, have you got a decent payroll person? Have you got a decent fill in the gap?
Yeah.
because within your network, and it might not even be if you're starting out a new business, it might be that within your friend group, there'll be 2 or 3 people, they will have done that hard work for you. But I think people are really scared of asking. And I'm like, no, just ask.
Oh my
You got a
God.
decent accountant? Yeah.
I'm like a little bit older than you, hit my 50s, and I've realised I've got an amazing network. So if I feel almost insulted when someone doesn't ask me, I'm like, ask the question. Like, asking is free. It's like, it doesn't cost us anything. And if I don't know someone, I'm really quick to tell you. And if I do know someone, I will introduce you quite comfortably.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's why, that's why you've got the school, because a lot of that is about connections and trust and then bringing different people in, right?
Totally. Here's another one for you. So the phrase, I think hire slow, fire fast. Any experience of having to say goodbye to people?
Oh, holy moly, yes.
How do you manage that?
I think now, with a deep sense of kindness. Because one of my massive things that I witness in the world, and let's face it, in the world in 2025, is that there is too much unkindness. And sometimes we're just not the right fit for one another, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And I think there's an acknowledgement really by having really open conversations. We're trainers, we're facilitators, we're coaches. We should be good at eliciting good conversations with other people. And I think when you're talking to people in terms of who's going to be your partners, who's going to be the people that you work with, just be really clear. And then if something doesn't work, you go, you know what? It's okay, but I don't think this is going to work for either of us. So there's always that whole thing about kindness and I think my younger self sort of went, well, hopefully they might deliver. There was quite a lot of hope. Whereas now I'm like, no, they're not the right person.
No.
Let's just move on,
I'm just, as you're talking, thinking about the team I've had before in the back office. And one of the big errors I made, and I'm sure if any of them are listening to it, they're probably nodding and smiling. So I thought, just because I've got someone who's coming in to be like a virtual assistant or to run the corporate side, that I could leave things with them and they'd work it out. But if you bring people into your business, you really do have to do an onboarding job. There's continuous communication. We can't just go, Victoria does all the invoices, I'll just leave her to it. She can't do the invoices unless I explain to her what the project is. So it's been a real aha for me that, you treat people kindly. They need information, Kirsty. You can't just expect them to work it out for themselves. So that's been one of my ahas. And then another one was, there were times I could see it in our conversations and I could almost feel it, that something was off. But the word hope, I hoped it would sort itself out, but I never addressed it directly. And it wasn't that there was anything bad going on, but it just didn't feel right in between the connection and the conversation. And I noticed they were maybe a little bit more stressed, or there were just things that were bugging them. And I just didn't address it and go, hey, what's going on? Like, I'm noticing a shift in how you are, yada, yada, yada. So when they did choose to leave, I wasn't surprised.
It made sense.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah. And I think with what you said makes real sense, right? That I think when you are the founder and when it has been yours and your IP and your knowledge and this is what we deliver, I think there is that, well, surely everybody else will know this. And I think I've witnessed lots of people who start to grow a team and then they get really frustrated with their team. And I'm like, they're not the founder. They don't have that brain. They need that, as you said, they need that support. They need that onboarding. They need that time. And you have to remember to yourself, other people are not you. That's why they're coming to work for you.
Yes.
And there's a big shift between going, I'm selling M Stroud, to there's a whole school. Because if people are getting me, I know what I'm doing. But if I'm getting them to go to a school and I might not be involved in all of it, you have to give those other people the time and the knowledge, right?
Yeah. I think the other thing I also learned to say to my team as they've sort of come on board is things like, this is my style of communication. I have a propensity to have big ideas all the time. I sort of download and then I assume wrongly that people will understand. I also talk very fast. I get very enthusiastic. What I'm bringing you on for, because I have a lot of people who are so not like me around me, which I've learned is the right thing for me. I need you to interject. It is okay for you to cross question me. Please do not think just because it's my name on the business that I know everything. I do not. So I want you to challenge me, ask me questions, like push back. Otherwise, oh my God, we're heading for a downfall, because the way I run a business is probably okay. There's better. Oh, it's interesting. One of the things we talked about before was boundaries. So like running a business, having boundaries. Where do we go? Personal boundaries, work boundaries. When you're thinking about business boundaries, what comes into your mind?
I think it's really interesting. I think if there is a word of my year, I have a different word of it and my actual word of the year, but boundaries is definitely something that I am working on and with, and seeing the benefit of it. You know, there's that quote, and I said it last night in a speaking gig, that's what's in my head. It's Brené Brown, and it's from not her most famous work. It's from Braving the Wilderness. And it is, clarity is kindness, unclarity is unkindness, right? And it's one of the very few quotes that I put in my first book because it resonates so deeply with me. And I think especially us Brits, we are really good at being vague. And we're really good at going, oh, that's great. Yeah, I'd love to do that. And then you're like, why have I never heard from them again? You know, working, like I know you do, working around the globe, I know that it's one of the most frustrating things about working with Brits, because they've been awfully lovely, awfully polite. And be like, oh, it's so lovely. So lovely to chat to you. And the thing is that the better I'm getting at boundaries, both personally and professionally, let's face it, I don't know, you know, people split that, right? Quite often, personal and professional. I'm like, we're still one person. It just depends which you're still that person. And the likelihood is, if you're not very good at boundaries at work, you're probably not going to be very good at them home, and vice versa.
It's
right?
something I've had to learn to do. I'm very British.
It's hard. And actually articulating what it is that you want and articulating your needs is something we're not told or taught how to do.
And in my head, this is what therapy's taught me. I don't want to come across as needy. Therefore, I pretzel myself a lot of the time to meet other people's wants, desires, needs, and just put myself on the back burner. And I feel like if I then go, no, this is how we do X, or this is what I need, that's me being needy. But it's not true.
No.
It's fascinating.
And I'm there with you on that. And I think part of the beautiful journey of going on therapy, as well as, you know, separate to coaching, is the understanding of what are the drivers behind how you behave and how you show up, and also what your hopes and what your dreams are, and not to go too deep. But, you know, it's that thing of, if you're going to set up your own business and you're having that courage to set up your own business and go, hi, I'm going to do this, I'm going to find my own everything. You have to spend that time going, okay, so what really matters? How do I do it? What are my non-negotiables? And if you're going to set up your own business, create your own boundaries so that you're living your full life, you know.
I love that. Could be my quote of the podcast. I do think, I'm banging on about this now, it's good to have therapy as well as a coach. Because it helps
without a shadow of a doubt. You need a team M, obviously changed to your own name. And I think it, because unless you're not called M, then you're going to be very worried. I was listening to Kirsty's podcast and I called myself M afterwards. Very weird. But actually, one of the things that I've really observed, and I talked about in my second One Woman show, is I think too many of us only go to therapy when we're broken.
Yeah.
And the best time to go to therapy is actually when life is going really well.
Yeah, that's like coaching though. Have coaching when life's going well. I admittedly went in when I was broken, or feeling quite broken emotionally. And then...
I like the way you said that, emotionally.
Emotionally. My best mate says this, Nicola. She goes, do you want to talk about your emotions, Kirsty?
Yeah.
Because she won't talk about emotions.
Yeah, because she's British, quite clearly. So it's like, I'm going to make this a joke, and then we won't actually have to talk about it because this is quite awkward, and you've done therapy.
I'm going to play that to her. That is the truth. Nix, you've made the podcast. But what I'm finding really interesting now is like, now we're in that space in therapy again. The big emotions have sort of, I've worked through them. We're now getting into the nuanced stuff that goes even deeper than I've ever done in coaching. And that's just really revelatory for me. And has just been really helpful. Like, oh, okay, yeah, and appreciated. Like little sort of micro moments of ahas.
Yeah, because it takes deep courage to look in the mirror and ask, who am I? And I think most of us, and I think especially those of us that are coaches, that are trainers, that are facilitators, there's a reason why we've chosen that role. And quite often, if I talk about my own experience, half the reason that I loved coaching was the same reason that I went into acting. It was so that nobody would see who I really was. So when I went to drama school, I wanted to go there so that I could pretend even better, so that no one would know who M is. And when I started as a coach, I was like, how great is this? I get to ask all the questions. I get to do all of this. I'm helping people. And then you go and do the coach training and you suddenly go, oh, once again, holy moly, it's all about me. Because it has to be. Because how can you genuinely, because acting is the portrayal of truth and coaching is about helping people discover their truth, right? So it's this whole beautiful thing of, how do you become the best Kirsty, the best M? And in order to do that, you've got to consistently keep looking at yourself in the mirror because there's nobody else we can change. We can only change ourselves.
Oh my God. She's dropping all the truth bombs, team. I've just written that down. Acting is a portrayal of truth. Then I'll find what else you just said. I'm laughing. So people are not watching this and are listening. I've just been sort of gawping and pulling funny faces. So one of the things I know to be true is I get people talking without, and they tell me things they didn't think they were going to tell me. And I know that's just through the listening and the questioning and just asking. The reason I didn't go to therapy for many, many years, even after my mum passed away, is, I didn't let my friends talk to me, is because I thought none of them could ask me a decent question. And it was just, and I've also, I don't know who I heard it from, but people like talking about themselves. So I learned really quickly, if you start a conversation and people go, how are you? You can give them an answer. And then you say, how are you? And they start talking. You ask them another question and another question. People are so maybe surprised or just like don't even realize they're doing it, but they're talking about themselves where normally they don't have that space to be seen, to be heard. And I just learned that was a neat trick. People
are, I think one of the things that I witness across all sectors in business and everything else is that we don't have enough time to be listened to. Everything's so fast, right? We've got to move really quickly. We've got KPIs and we've got this. And the amount of times that I ask organizations and people are like, okay, how good are you at listening? And they're like, maybe a 6. And then we get them to play those kind of listening games. They're like, maybe a 2. And we all know how to listen. But the thing is that we don't create the space to really be heard. Yeah. And so it is, you're right, as soon as somebody goes, oh my gosh, Kirsty has asked me a question and she's actually listening to the answer and not waiting for her turn to speak. Of course, people tell you everything. The amount of stuff I know about people, bonkers. I often hear, oh, I've just told you things I've never told anyone, or oh, only 4 other people know about that. And it just brings a smile to my face and I'm like, oh, okay, thanks for trusting me. That's all I ever say. Hold it lightly. Exactly. I love this. We just started to talk about identity. You just said, keep like your work and your personal self. Like you didn't use these exact words, separate. And I was told that so many times in the corporate world, don't bring your weekend self into this conversation, sort of thing. But I'm like, but that is all of me. Yeah. Like, and I think that has an impact then on like identity, because I think people can get wrapped up in an identity of who am I? So am I the business person? Am I the coach? Am I the clown? How do you manage, like, because we started like, who are you? And you beautifully listed multiple things. What are
how do you manage your identity?
I think I literally now am the same with whoever I meet. I am, I love making people laugh. I love making people think. I can obviously have certain moments where I shift. And I remember when I first met my missus, and she was here. So we got together during COVID, and she was in my bubble. And I remember saying to her, I'm going to go and coach this CEO, right? And she couldn't hear the conversation, but she could hear the energy of the conversation, if that makes sense. And obviously we were just getting to know each other. And she's like, oh my God, you really are actually the same, even with them. I'm like, yeah, because I've worked too hard to get to a place to be M. I've done too much therapy. I've had too much coaching, because my younger self, back in my 20s, I hid who I was. And so for me, I want to help other people, because I've done it myself, unmask. It's like, be all of you.
Yeah.
Be the you that you are. Be the too loud, everyone has been told, don't do this, don't be too much, don't be this. And it's like, no, just be you. And I remember a mentor of mine saying to me, if you've got an audience of 100 people and 80 of them like you, you've done unbelievably well. And when you take that pressure off of, I've got to get everyone liking me, you're like, of course not everyone's going to like me.
Correct.
But the thing is, it comes back down to that mirror thing. You have to like yourself. And I used to hide who I was, years ago, with one of the training development businesses. I didn't tell people that I did comedy, didn't tell people that I had an improv show, certainly hadn't kind of reconnected with my clown self, because I genuinely thought people in the business world won't take me seriously. So I literally did do that split of personal and professional.
Wow.
And I just got sadder and sadder inside my soul. And I just felt like I lost who I was. So my late 20s, early 30s, I was not that happy deep down. Outwardly, I can put it on. Of course.
Yeah.
But deep down, I was like, this is not the way. And so now, when I see people, everyone talks about, authenticity and how do you be your best self, all of this stuff, right? And I'm like, you just have to carry on doing the work.
And be you. And
be
test
you.
it.
Yeah.
I think there is something though. So I look back at my 20s and early 30s, and I now know I was incredibly unhappy. Now, I was in the drinks industry, did not help. I drank a lot. And for some bizarre reason, I kept a diary for the very first time in 2007. And that's the year I decided I was going to leave Diageo. Right. But I read back, oh my God, it was dark. I was like, you weren't in a happy place. And I just didn't know that. I thought that was the norm at the time.
Yeah. And I think we can convince ourselves. And I think that whole conveyor belt of life, it's like, if you're lucky, you go to school, then you finish. You might do a gap year and then you go to university. And once you're done the university, then you think about buying your house. You get your first career.
Yes.
Then you get promoted. And then you've earned so much money that you can't leave. And suddenly, before you know it, you're 80. And for me, I'm really about, okay, how do you get off all of the treadmills? And how do you go, okay, what makes my heart sing? Like, I ask so many people, what makes your heart sing? And no one's asked them that. Or how much play, how much joy? Do you laugh enough? People are like, no. And I'm like, we've got that wrong. But we can't control the world, but we can control ourselves.
I think it's just such a timely conversation for me, because it just reminds me, like, why do I do what I do? Like, why am I choosing to do School of Facilitation? Why am I choosing to do this work? Because if it's not making me happy, like, why are you doing it? No, it is making me happy, everyone. Don't worry. I'm not about to suddenly close the school. However, I think it's a good conversation to have with ourselves, like, just for the whole of life. So, like, what am I doing in life per se? And am I doing the things that make me happy? And when we run our own businesses, guess what, team? We can adjust the world to work for us. Like, we can adjust our behaviors. You don't have to wait to be told by your boss, yes, you can take holiday, or no, you can't go on that workshop.
Yeah. And if you want, there is nothing saying that if you are working for yourself, there's nothing wrong in saying, right, I'm going to work for the first 6 months of the year, and then I'm going to take 3 months off. And then I'm going to work for the last 3 months of the year, and I'm going to repeat. It's what I see quite often is that people in this world of coaching and training and facilitating, in essence, get really caught up with what they think business looks like.
Yeah.
And what they think they should do. And actually, it's like, if you're going to be brave enough and courageous enough to go out by yourself, of which it's a tiny proportion of the population that does that, by the way. So if you're brave enough to do it, at least make sure you're getting the rewards of creating the life that you want. So if you're somebody that loves cinemas, go and watch a movie every Wednesday afternoon when no one else is there with a big, that's the kind of stuff that I love doing. I'm like, you will find me in a cinema sometimes, massive thing of popcorn just by myself, no one else there, so joyous. Because I'll probably be doing a speaking gig in the evening. You know,
Right.
it's like
Yeah.
live the life, or I won't be doing a speaking, and I just feel like taking the
I love
afternoon
that.
off because I can.
And we don't do enough of that. We're coming to the end of our conversation. We could carry on, by the way.
I mean, quite clearly.
Quite clearly. I'd like to ask you some quick fire questions.
All right.
So, question number 1. What advice would you give to someone starting out?
Make sure that you've got a team M. Make sure you have a brilliant team around you. And if you can't afford a team, question, can you really not afford a team? And even if you literally just say, can I give you £10? That is enough to go, I just need 10 minutes. Can I pay you £10? It will change your trajectory of your business.
Love. Who do you follow in social media land that you think others should too?
I've got 2. Is that right?
Yeah.
I'm quite enjoying Sahil Bloom's stuff at the moment. He's done the 5 things of wealth. I think he's quite an interesting soul. Don't love it all, but I like some of it. And then on the female side, I really enjoy Glennon Doyle. Although ironically, she's starting to leave social media because of all the politics side. But you can follow her on. She's got a great Substack and newsletter and stuff.
Okay, cool. I've
so
got her book.
Untamed.
Yeah, that's good.
Great book.
Beautiful.
Really good book.
Easy read, but just so insightful.
Powerful.
Yeah. I was about to say, what book do you recommend?
Not that one. I mean, I do recommend it. I think it's great. But a book that stayed with me is The Storyteller by Dave Grohl.
As in Dave Grohl?
Dave Grohl. It's one of the most beautiful, even if you weren't into grunge, if you weren't into Nirvana, you're not into the Foos, it is one of the most, and remember, I'm a theatre maker, I tell stories. It's one of the most beautifully written books of stories that you will ever hear. And if you are over the age of 20, it will relate to you. Okay. And it's beautiful. Yeah.
Oh, I'll go and find that. Okay, final question. How have you invested in yourself or your business to support you in moving forward?
Team M.
Team M.
And also finding the right partners to take over the stuff, but actual proper partners that run different departments of my business. That is a game changer for me.
Thank you. Emma, if people want to find you, so 2 parts here. How do they find out about your tour, first off?
So the easiest way of the tour will be follow my Instagram, which is MR Stroud. So EMR and then STROUD. Yeah, MR Stroud. So on Insta, all of the tour stuff will be there. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn as well. So yeah, all my socials.
Love. And then what about from which we haven't talked about, and I now regret that, the business side?
So there's a couple of ways. So you can either go on the Leadership Impact School. So that's leadershipimpactschool.com. So we do 12 awesome days all about pillars of impact for either individuals and their open days or for teams. And that is brilliant and going awesome and fabulous. Or if you're more curious about me, then you just go on mstroud.com, and I run a retreat once a year for senior women in Lanzarote, which is awesome. I do a tiny bit of one-to-one coaching, and then I speak and do comedy. That's what I do. I'm writing my second book. It's all on there.
What are the books about? What was your first book about?
So my first book was called Lessons from a Clown: How to Have Courage to Show Up for Yourself and Laugh Every Day.
Love.
Thank you. So, and if you like the sound of my voice, it's on Audible. It's me. So it's quite, lots of people like it. So yeah. So that's my first book, and my second book is in the pipeline, shall we say? And let's just say it's got a title that I'm very proud of, but is not coming out yet because I've got to speak to an agent.
We're not having you heard it here first moment, and that is okay. I just want to say a massive thank you for being a guest on the podcast today. I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. It has been, brought a big smile to my face and really insightful as well. Thank you. Wow. What a conversation with not Emma. I really enjoyed that. I learned just more about myself as ever in this conversation, just in terms of, spending time in therapy, design the life that you want. Don't think you've got to be running a business, which means you can't take your Wednesday afternoon off and go and watch a film. And I thought when I was going to speak to Emma, that we were talking about the comic side, the clown side. But actually, she's super serious, which I really like as well, in that she's got her head screwed on. And how fascinating that she watched her dad be an entrepreneur, and then she was just like, yeah, I can run a theatre company. So if you've enjoyed today's conversation with Em Stroud, firstly, go find her on LinkedIn or Instagram. Maybe even go and watch her show, which I am planning to do. But give us a like, a star, a thumbs up, even write a comment or a review wherever you get your podcast, because that would help us massively at Facilitators Journey, just to show other people that this is a great podcast. So many more of you now write to me and tell me what you take from these when you listen to this. So please send me a message after you've listened to this and tell me what you took from today's conversation, and also share it with other people. Please share the podcast so others can benefit from these wonderful guests and the conversations that we have with them. Anyway, I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care and go well.